Hi guys and welcome back. I think we're going into our last 15 minutes of the show. That shows that we've been having so much fun. We are going over tax and I know that it seems like a bit of a rough one, but what I do want you to do is, guys, please send those questions through. Even if we don't get to it today, we do have Saturday to go over a few questions. And Saturday is just like, in a few days' time too, in fact. So get doing that and post them onto www.facebook.com/learn extra. Also chat to me on Twitter @learnextra. And Peter, take it away.
All right, folks, so we're looking at tax. We've looked at a tax table. There's just one thing I want to go through before we look at an example, and that's this thing called a tax rebate. Okay, so it's quite a weird and wonderful name, but it's quite interesting as well. Rebate. What is a rebate? Well, after calculating all the tax, the government then say, we are going to deduct from your tax a certain amount that you don't need to pay us, right? And in this table, if you're under 65 years old, you are going to get a rebate of 8,280 Rand. So let's say I calculate all my tax, and at the end of it, it says you got to give the tax man 20,000 Rand this year. Well, we're going to subtract 8,280 Rand. So I'm not going to give him 20,000. I'm only going to give him 11,720 Rand. Okay? Because we're subtracting that 8,280. Got that? Okay, and you'll see how we use it in the example. So let's move on and let's look at our first example. Right. Okay, here's our first example. We've done it all in color. Why? Because we just wanted to be different. And here's the question. Determine the monthly tax that needs to be paid if a person aged 51 earns 7,500 Rand a month. Okay. So you earning 7,500 Rand a month, how much am I going to give to the tax man? Remember, before I look at the tax tables, what do I have to do? I have to change my monthly salary to an annual salary. So I'm going to say I've got 7,500 Rand that I'm earning every month, and I'm going to multiply that by 12 to get my annual salary. So on my calculator, we're going to say, right, we're earning 7,500 Rand a month. We're going to multiply it by 12, and we're going to get an answer of 90,000 Rand. So I'm earning every year 90,000 Rand. Okay. Now, let's look at our tax table, and I've got it on another board here, so I'm just going to flash between the two. Where does 90,000 Rand fit in? 90,000 Rand fits in over here in this category, which means I'm paying 18% of every Rand that I earn, I'm giving over to the tax man. Got that? So let's do it. So we're going to say, all right, so then of this, let's just find it quickly, of this 90,000 Rand, the tax that we are paying is going to be 18% of that 90,000 Rand. So when we work it out now, we're going to say, right, we got the 90,000. Let's multiply that now by 18%. Equals 16,200 Rand. So we are giving 16,200 Rand of our annual salary over to the tax man. But we are going to get a rebate. Remember, the government is saying, you're not paying all that. We're going to give you, subtract some money from that amount. And what are they going to subtract? Well, from our table again, you can see that the rebate for a person under 65 is 8,280 Rand. Can you remember that? 8,280 Rand. So let's go back to our question. So of the 16,200, we are now subtracting
280 Rand.
8,280 Rand. So my calculator is now saying, right, you got 16,200 minus 8,280 Rand means I'm paying 7,920 Rand. 7,920 Rand goes to the tax man. But guys, the tax man's quite clever. All right. What the tax man says is this. Hold on. Whoa, we got a problem here. If people earn money, if we come to them at the end of the year and we say to them, oi, you got to give us, please, 7,920 rand. Not many people have got 7,920 rand. Okay? Why? Because they've spent it on what? On clothes, on shoes, on fixing up a dented car that their wife smashed, whatever the case may be. 7,920 rand is not money that a lot of people can just hand over. So the government are quite clever, and they're saying, you know what we're going to do? You don't have to pay it at the end of the year. We're going to take it all, a little bit off your salary every single month. So this 7,920 rand is the amount that I'm paying for the year. But if I divide it by 12, I will then know how much I'm paying every single month. So 7,920 divided by 12 months works out to 660 rand. Now that doesn't sound so bad. So I'm paying 600 and, what was it? 60 rand, was it? Oops, let's just see. Yeah, 660 rand. Okay, so I'm paying 660 rand tax every month. So instead of earning 7,500 a month, my money going in the bank is 7,500 minus that 660, which went to the tax man. So I'm only left with 6,800 odd. Got that? Let's look at another example, a more complicated example. Next one. Determine the tax that a 65-year-old man would pay per year if his taxable salary was 300,000 rand a year. Now, this whole thing here called taxable salary, guys, please understand, you get a certain salary, not all of it is taxed. If you're paying pension, they take that off before they tax you, all right? But that's a whole complicated and another story, right? Right now, all we're doing is working out the tax on something we're going to be calling a taxable salary. In other words, that's the amount of money that you're going to be taxed on. And it's, in this case, 300,000 rand a year. Now, please take note, our gentleman is 65 years old. Okay? So there's a different rebate for certain ages. If you're under 65, you're paying that 8,280 rand, whatever it is. If you're 65 and over, the tax man's not just going to give you 8,280, he's actually going to give you more than that. And for this example, I think it was about just over 13,000. Right? Remember, every year those figures change. So let's have a look. 300,000 rand a year. Where does that fit into our tax bracket? Well, 300,000 fits in over here. Okay? So what does that mean? That means we are going to pay 58,125 rand. So let's write that up straight away. 58,125 rand, hey? Plus, we're paying something else. What are we paying? 58,125. Plus, we're paying 35% of an amount above 250,000. So what else are we doing? We're also paying 35% of an amount above 250,000 rand. Now, what are we earning? We're currently earning 300,000 a year. So how much is above 250? 50,000. Agreed? So if I'm earning 300,000, how much money is above 250,000? 50,000. 300,000 minus 250,000 is 50,000 rand. So there is 50,000 rand, which we've got to find 35% of. Okay? So let's do that straight away. So on our calculator, we're saying, right, we want to find 35% of 50,000 equals 17,500. So we've got 17,500 rand. But remember, to that we've got to add the 58,125 125 Rand. So let's do that with our calculator straight away. So we're going to add 58,125 Rand, and it gives us 75,625. Will you remember that? 75,625. 75,625 Rand goes to the tax man every year. But remember, the tax man's going to give us a rebate. In other words, he's going to say, you don't have to pay me the full 75,000. I'm going to take some money away so you don't have to pay me that. And how much is he going to take away? Well, if I'm 65 years old, my rebate, person 65 and older, here it is going to be 13,320 Rand. So 13,320 Rand. So now we can work out our tax. So it's 75,625 minus 13,000, what was it? 320, was it? Let's just move this calculator. Yep, 320. 13,320 Rand equals 62,305 Rand. 62,305 Rand. Oops, let's do that again. I'm having fun here today.
You're doing very well, Peter.
You reckon?
Yeah, fantastically.
Okay. And 5 Rand. But that's the amount I'm paying every year. How much am I paying per month? We divide that by 12. So we're going to say, right, divide by 12, and we get an answer of 5,192 Rand and 8 cents. We've run out of time. I've got a handover. We're going to start Saturday's program at 1:30 doing another example because we have to. Okay? You've got to get this understood. Over to you.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for such an amazing show. We had so many amazing posts, and we really did have such fun. Before we go, I know I have a really short time to speak. Actually, I don't think let me see. Taklani said, people who came up with the idea of creating this page and channel, truly speaking, that was a brilliant idea. This channel is so helpful. I learn new things every day when I enter or watch the show. And what I do know about Saturday school is that you pay, but here we're not paying even 1 cent. Education is nice. Keep up and good work mindset. Thanks, grade 12s. Have an awesome, awesome evening. See you on Saturday. Bye.